Hello everyone, welcome back to What's Up Investor Podcast, where we address all your financial concerns and issues. Today we'll be touching on the topic of ESG adoption and development in Malaysia. Hence we've invited Professor Cheah Kok Hoong, who is the President of ESG Association of Malaysia. Welcome, Professor Cheah.
Thank you, KN. Thank you for having me here.
No problem. Without further ado, let us dive right into the topic. So, Cheah, can you share with us what is ESG all about and why do businesses and investors need to consider it?
Okay, I think I have to earn why I'm here. Why the formation of ESG?
Yes.
Actually, some of the founding members have mooted the idea. And, do we have an ESG association in the country? Sometime last year. And whereby they're going through some search, ROS, Registered Society, and so on. Then they started to form the idea and then initiate the registration in ROS sometime in way before April. However, we got our approval from ROS sometime April or May. Then our first AGM actually started in September. September last year, 2022. And then goes on the first council AGM, then the council, and so on and so forth. That's the number one. Number two, when the founding objective, one of the very clear said, why do we require association?
Yeah.
The association is about a platform. Association is about amalgamation about various expertise, about members, about the professional together, and to provide a platform that can be a sounding board, can be a counseling, can be a guide, can provide that values to the members, or even to be acted as a policy advocacy, right? So that's when come back to your question was, the important for the business to consider, and I would like to consider this conversation in such a way that it is survival. Perhaps in my generation, it will be a bit like not that suitable anymore because it is about journey. In any policy or any good policy or guide, will be a journey, and it's very much for the current and the future generation. And ESG is talking about environmental, social, and governance.
Correct.
And as such, you think about it. If we don't take care about our Mother Earth planet, we continue to destroy, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And if we continue to let the society, right, some country is started because of the inflation, because of this, because of food supply and so on, that some of the social unrest is happening. Of course, frankly speaking, the media might not announce all, might not share all that becoming, whether it's a political view or economic view. Then the third portion is about governance. Governance is talking about transparency and is about fairness. And if you look at our business environment or our regional global environment, some company can make an obscene profit. However, where are the wealth distribution? So where are the equality, right? So we have to think about in more context, whether it's based on the science base. I will strongly encourage based on the science base rather than based on you say, I say. So, and that is one of the very important fundamental foundation that our association being formed, and we would like to try this agenda.
I see. Okay, could you share with us, like, in your view, how has ESG evolved over time, and like, is there any current trends or emerging issues that are
Yeah,
heavily going to impact, the sustainable investing in the future?
certainly. I want to talk about two perspectives. Number one is about the buzzword.
The buzzword.
The buzzword, the jargon. I mean, most of us know about SDG, Sustainable Development Goals,
Goals,
70. And now, today we are here to talk about the topic about ESG. But then again, what will be the catch of all phrases? That I think you and me will agree that the sustainability is the catch of all phrase, right? And whoever promote SDG, whoever advocate this ESG, but in the eventuality is talking about the sustainability, then that is will lead to my point number 2 about what will be the purpose and the profit. And in the business we're talking about profit to sustain. So you remember I mentioned earlier this ESG Association of Malaysia being formed. It was registered under the Register of Society, meaning that it's an NGO and non-government and NPO, non-profit organization.
Okay.
And this association, the objective of the association is not profit-driven. However, as an association also, we need to sustain.
Correct.
How to sustain? Is to the membership fees and to the research, to the sponsorship, and to the value. For example, we are planning to start our this ESG Academy by amalgamation, assembling of expert and form up suitable training materials to awareness, training and certification and even assessment. So that is what we are going to this journey. We are observing the trend, especially this pandemic, that giving a lot of business thought or rethink about if we can do it all working, how and what and where do we want to do it better.
Can you share with us how can companies measure and report on their financial performance, and if there's any relationship between ESG and as well as financial performance?
Thank you so much for this question. In the management principle, the guru Peter Drucker said, if anything that you cannot measure, you cannot manage. Rule number 1, right? And this rule number 1 go to rule number 2, and rule number 2 also say the same thing. If things that you cannot measure, you cannot manage. Then when come back to your reporting and so on, that what kind of reporting? So we are talking about the data, the capturing of the business data. Then from the business data, we convert it into the business information. And why this business information is important? Because data is a raw data. You need to apply the algorithm to the information. Why we need to have information? Then from the information, then will form a basis of the knowledge. So the knowledge is form a basis for the business decision making. So come back to the ESG data. My humble opinion view, number 1, you must have data. And there's 2 forms of data. Whether it's a tacit and explicit. Something is inside here, something is inside the paper. Okay? And it is also very important. And how many companies in the country are having automated or computer system? I don't want to call it the what bombastic, the one the IoT or this industrial forward or this AI. I don't talk about that. I talk about the fundamental data. And I mentioned about tacit in explicit. Then I talk about the manual data versus the computer captured data. Both also data.
Yeah.
But for ESG reporting, can we use the manual data to capture and articulate? Can, but you will require time.
Yes, a lot of time.
And accuracy.
Yes.
And the speed. Right?
Yeah.
So time of capturing, and when you want to dissect the data, and we call it the data integrity,
Yeah,
in
integration.
accounting.
Yeah.
And then the integration about the HR data, the finance data, and that go back to your question, right? The ESG data. So what exactly ESG data that we wanted to measure? We wanted to pick up. There's a lot of global standard. There are hundreds of global standard, whether it's GRI, whether it's some accounting. Now, Malaysia started to promote this IFRS, or some smaller one is NFRS, the accounting and so on. But it must be one objective or mandatory. It must converting the manual data to automate data.
Okay.
Then when you have any kind of ESG system solutioning or capturing, then only you can capture those digitized data. Yes, the manual data also can be captured. You can do a scanning, you can do an optical character reading, OCR and so on, but that sounded like a bit like elementary or primary standard and so on. That we are talking about business environment. Business is competitive. Business is talking about competition, right? So come back to the idea. What's the ESG reporting? Of course, there's a lot of data, and government is play a very important role.
Yeah.
What will be a mandatory requirement of data recording that for the purpose of ESG?
So you mentioned there's like a few different kind of standards.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
Malaysia implement different standards as well, or is it just we all follow one standard?
Oh, very good question. You know how many industry that we have in the country? And do you know how many company that register in the SSM? Roughly, my data may be still old during my
Okay.
previous interview, another radio station.
Okay.
There's the data point as a note, December 2022, registered company under the SSM got 1.5 million.
Wow.
Okay, and about 4,700 is about, we call it the big boy, the MNC and so on. And there's a listed company, there's about 970 plus, or maybe 980. Then we rounded figure, 1,000 plus this 5,000 is 6,000. 6,000 minus by 1.5 million. You still got 1.4 million plus of company out there.
Yeah.
How to have one standard or one size fit all? Why? I said now, based on our current research or current understanding, there doesn't have one global standard. I can tell you, Western country and EU got EU standard. Now British also want to have standard. American also want to have a standard. They are promoting the standard.
Their own standards.
Oh yes, yes. So come back to this 1.4 million plus. How many vertical industry there are? That could be the FMCG, oil and gas, like PhillipCapital is an investment. Can you adhere to one standard? Okay. The country, of course, a good thing about it, what we follow the news of Syria, also coming up with the standard. MIDI is conducting the workshop, engaging with the stakeholder and so on, trying to consolidate. And furniture, what standard? Food standard and furniture standard, I think is different.
Yeah.
Then high-tech E&E standard and oil and gas standard, I think is also different. And manufacturing, process manufacturing, discrete manufacturing also is different. Isn't it? So
Yes.
how to have one standard fit all? Of course, by saying so is like kind of pessimistic. Then why the association exists for doing what? Then since so many problems don't need to address, then, but yes, we are still here, and we must find a more suitable standard applicable and having certain localization.
I see.
Again, one of the biggest criteria for this standard is upstream and downstream. If you are talking about downstream, I mean, many of our SMEs and so on, right, in the country, we are supplier, we are exporting our finished good or semi-finished good to the outside, to US, to Europe, and so on, right? And the most important, he or she must comply the buyer standard. right? The country origin standard. If I were coming from US, I want to buy your coconut oil. You must comply this. And a bit sensitive, I just give example. So, Malaysia is the number one country producing the cloth, right?
Yes.
You have to conform to this human rights. You have to this one of the SDG goal, one of the ESG goal, or else I don't want to buy from you. You should heard about this story and so on. That's the origin country. Then I can share with you another interesting conversation that we're going through, that whereby, since you are the buyer, you want me to comply to the ESG. Why not you pay for the ESG compliance cost? Then I'm the seller. I'm the seller. I will comply to your standard. However, I can add on the additional cost on the product, or you can pay me separately so that I can comply to that. That also will influence about which standard to use.
I see.
That's why your question said, which standard? There are plentiful standards. There are hundreds of standards outside there.
Okay.
But which will be compliant? Whether CRIM can take the lead, or government, or industry should take the lead. Or at least we come together to agree to disagree on some fundamental standard that is affordable. The most important, not increase the cost to the consumer, is in an affordable way, and to create a better branding, to create a better business processes, or to have more process effectiveness and cost efficiency. That is a purpose versus the profit. Hopefully I'm still answering your question.
Yes,
because the question is very tough to answer, frankly speaking.
Understand.
Yeah.
I think you already addressed my next question, which is the key challenges for the different industries to implement ESG as well.
The key challenges, if I can add on one more perspective, is talking about the demand and supply.
Okay.
Government will not involve in this so-called, because it's a liberalization economy, freedom of act. Of course, in anything we do also must have certain regulatory compliances to govern. Or whether it's import, export, or this is called I call it the triangle. The demand, supply, and must be the center part or the top part like a pyramid. And it have to be governance. Governance of the fair trade, governance about the supply, about the operational. If you're talking about environmental, they must have certain rules and regulation to govern this manufacturing or construction and property development, the landslide, right? So there's some people asking, the recent incident happened, whether it's E or S or G. So some of our conversation will go, the G will be more important. Then instead of ESG, why not we put the GES? It happened.
Okay.
Interesting, right? You never thought about it, right? So in some membership dialogue, we all of us are stunned. That relate back to your earlier standard, right? If we are debate on this ESG, GES, forget about the standard. If we are at the stage of debate, so they come back to this governance, and it is very, very important. So when the real challenge, I can give you the example. Energy will have energy challenges. Healthcare, there's something that I understand. The ways of emission and the medical equipment. Before years, right, when you go to the blood and so-called, right, the needles and so on, it's just true. But now you can't. You must have a special container to amalgamate, to keep all the needle and then send it to the special disposal. Very simple. Furniture industry, right? Let's say your house, you go to a new house or old house, or you want to change your furniture. The big size of furniture? You cannot simply tool along the jalan here and there, You'll be fined and so on. And there's some regulatory compliance. Of course, the follow through and execution is key. And those are big dilam and so on, you want to throw. You cannot simply throw chuck on the roadside, because it's harmful to the environment, isn't it?
Yes.
So you must send to those dedicated place. Actually, frankly, the country having that, but you need constant or rigorous reminder and discipline
Correct.
and follow through.
Yes.
The enforcer and the self-discipline must be aligned. And this is very critical.
Yeah.
Of course, when they come to these challenges, they also have the consumer good is typical, right? If you want to stop the plastic, you must have a replacement, and you must replace with degradable container and so on.
Yes.
But the last 2-3 years, the situation happened not that what we want.
Correct.
You think about it, the mask. Have you ever calculated how many masks that we have used? And how many masks that we dispose? And did anyone come out and raise a hand say, this mask, is it degradable or not? We're talking about plastic. But the usage of plastic and usage of mask is way beyond. And do you know Malaysia, every day our rubbish, if I'm not mistaken, I want to qualify this. Our rubbish of daily disposal in the country is almost equal to Twin Tower. So there's a lot of things that we don't know. So as one of the objective or mission for the association was, we wanted to keep on reminding what will be the pain point, what will be the key point, what will be the important point, and what will be the executive point, and what will be the agreeable point for us to collectively, every one of us, and playing a role of it. Whereby I wanted to share about the challenges is not coming from one-sided. The challenges are coming from both sides, and how we can balance it, and how we find the way and means to do it.
Yeah.